Naruto is a series that, despite not being in the horror genre, has a surprising amount of horror in it.
No, it doesn't.
What are you? I'm doing the intro. Obviously, it's not the most terrifying story in the world, but some scenes do stand out for their noticeably scarier tone. So to celebrate Halloween, we're gonna talk about the top 5 scariest scenes in part 1 of Naruto. Of course, there's an infinite number of ways to determine what counts as scary, so to spice things up and add some variety, I brought my friend Oodie here today. Subscribe to his channel and our podcast in the description below, and we'll each present our own top 5 scariest scenes based on our own criteria and explain why we chose the scenes that we did. And we're gonna be ranking the top 5 creepiest moments in Naruto over on his channel, so be sure to check that out and like this video to help us out. Now, we don't know each other's lists or our criteria for scary, so we should hopefully end up with some pretty different lists, or at least different reasoning if we chose any of the same scenes. So without further ado, let's begin. Number 5. I have a pretty specific moment for this one. It's right after Akamaru pees in Sakon's face to protect Kiba. Kiba sees Sakon screaming in agony as his eyes are burning, and he looks around and thinks,
"Where'd the other one go?"
And Ukon says,
"Boo. Looking for someone, kid?"
as he's merged with Kiba's shoulder and starts to explain his assassination technique, which is basically a super fast karma seal when you think about it, because he breaks his body down into proteins and reassembles them while taking over his enemy's cells to completely erase the target's body and kill them. Like, imagine how much scarier it would have been if Ishiki could just use Sakon and Ukon's technique to take over Kawaki instead of the karma seal. Bro could have just taken over Kawaki's body immediately and destroyed the whole world, no problem. That's how scary this technique is. And unlike karma, you can just ditch the enemy's body if they're gonna die. You don't have to die with them, which is how Ukon saves himself when Kiba's about to kill himself. And I don't want to put too much emphasis on music, but this scene plays the classic scary Gaara theme whenever Gaara is being evil and mysterious. And then visually, Sakon and Ukon's curse mark 2 makes him look like a literal demon or the devil. Them and Fused Momoshiki from the movie have the most devilish design in the whole franchise, so Kiba essentially has the devil on his shoulder. And Ukon literally says, "Boo." It doesn't get much more Halloween scary than that.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I'll give my number 5 choice now. So, my number 5 choice on top 5 scariest scenes in Naruto is when Gaara kills Rain Ninja and Team 8 is hiding. So this is, Forest of Death. And this is, you got Kiba, Hinata, Shino's there as well, obviously. And it's really like following the scene from Kiba's perspective, but he's just watching in horror as Gaara just relentless, no mercy, cold-blooded takes out the Rain Ninja, and even using their own umbrella to guard against their dark blood. I just felt like that entire scene, especially from Kiba's point of view, was just terrifying. And it was a scene where it's like Gaara reaches his hand over, and you're like, oh, are they caught? Are they about to die? But now he's just reaching for like his sand gourd plug thing. Real tension there. I like it.
Number 4. My next entry is the Reaper Death Seal, just the whole jutsu. Everything about it is very scary and Halloween feeling. The Reaper is a literal death god that looks like a demon. He has these curse mark like tattoo things all over his body. The souls that were extracted are screaming in agony as the Reaper takes his knife, chops their heads off, then chows down on their souls with this giant grin on his face. And the visuals of the Reaper taking his hand and shoving it through Hiruzen's stomach to grab Orochimaru's soul and yank it out of his body is also pretty scary. I mean, just the way the jutsu works is frightening. The Reaper eats the caster and the target's souls and traps them there for eternity. And to put things in perspective, Orochimaru is a pretty scary guy. I bet he's going on everyone's top 5 scariest Naruto scenes list. So you know the Reaper is scary when Orochimaru is frightened by it. And then of course, Gaara's demon theme when he's in his Shukaku form gives the Reaper this very ominous, evil tone as the scene plays out. Plus, of all the entries on this list, the Reaper is probably the most Halloween looking character. Like, I can imagine a kid dressing up as this thing for Halloween and scaring the crap out of every house he goes to.
Absolutely. I'm afraid that we're going to have a lot of the same entries on this list. Maybe not, maybe so. I don't know. We'll get to it because obviously we don't know each other's list. So my number 4 scene Again, I thought it was just slightly scarier than the Gaara scene. But, you know, Gaara scene, as we mentioned, number 5 for a reason. There's even comedic elements in there. I feel like there's no comedic elements in my number 4. We have Itachi's Tsukuyomi on Kakashi. I felt like this in particular was scary because it's not only the introduction of the jutsu, and in Naruto, introductory jutsus are usually when they're the strongest. Look at the Rasen Shuriken and the Rasengan, just for your examples. And so I feel like this instance in particular is more scary than probably most other entries on this list. Maybe not objectively so. Like, I think you could argue that Sasuke technically got a more horrifying experience watching his clan die 5 bajillion times over. But, like, Kakashi just felt more terrifying. An actual scene for the audience. The 3 days that last forever. It's been like 20 seconds, like, 2 seconds have passed, as he's literally being like crucified. It's crazy, and the pain is amplified. It's everything about that scene. The red visuals to the moon in the sky, the bloody sword, the infinite Itachis, everything there was just terrifying to me.
Number 3. So up next is one of my favorites on this list, and it's the scene when Ukon sneaks up on Kiba in the forest, and this might be the most horror movie-like entry in terms of its presentation. So Kiba is bleeding out and running away from Sakon and Ukon, and he smells Sakon close by, and you see Sakon's hand doing the demon hand around the corner thing, where his fingers slowly wrap around the tree, and it's really suspenseful because it's presented as though Sakon's at the tree Kiba's hiding behind. But then Sakon pops his head around and it's actually a different tree, relieving both Kiba and the audience for a second. And in that moment of relief, Kiba sighs and says,
That was close.
And that's when Ukon says,
What was?
As he's crouched down right behind Kiba and wearing his jacket to cover his scent, which I thought was a brilliant strategy. Ukon then pulls out a kunai to kill Kiba, and while this is happening, Tayuya is about to kill Shikamaru and Kimimaru is about to kill Lee. And keep in mind, when watching this for the first time, we think Choji just died from eating the red pill and that Neji died from Kidomaru's barrage of ridiculous forest-busting arrows. And from what I've heard, Kishimoto originally intended on killing Choji and Neji in this arc, but decided not to in the end. So there was a very real chance that Kiba, Shikamaru, and Lee could all die here too.
Absolutely. Especially since this feels like the end of part 1. Like we're about to get that grand finale Naruto and Sasuke fight. You might as well just remove your ensemble cast of characters. It feels like he's just doing the Red Wedding, the Coaling Games, whatever you want to consider, just survival. Just remove the entire cast.
It really could have happened though. But what about your number 3?
So, it's a little bit familiar, but Sakon and Ukon hunting Kiba. So what can I say about this scene that hasn't been said previously? Well, if you've ever been in middle school, you probably...
What are you referring to? You're referring to the end part where like they're like he's in the forest and they're like
the Curse Mark stage 2, absolutely. Basically before Kabuto, or not Kabuto, Kankuro shows up.
Yeah.
So basically, this scene, I see this as like, it has the least external factors. It's just the most internal horror. Because like, Kidomaru is scary if you have arachnophobia, but that's like an external thing, like a specific audience. I feel like just everyone can get the scary vibe from Sakon and Ukon. First of all, there's like splitting their body into like weird metal 2 twin things, and that's already creepy enough, let alone like specific horror. I think that just applies to everyone. But then also the fact, I think they just have the most devil design of all the
literally,
Curse Mark
bro, they look like the devil.
Exactly, like, and then the way they attack Kiba, morphing into his body, it's like the most weirdest, creepiest thing ever. So it's like definitely terrifying. Like if you've ever been in middle school, you've seen the game, the story, the movie, whatever it is, or hunting humans. I feel like it is just like that. It's like a survival aspect. And you get like Kiba's sad backstory as he's bleeding out, saving his dog. It just feels so terrifying because like Kiba has no chance of winning this fight. And so it's like a timed thing because you don't even know the Sand Ninja are coming. So it's like, he's done here, and it's in the most terrifying way possible.
Number 2.
So my number 2, and I feel like this is going to be a controversial spot, I'm going to be honest, because I feel like there's an iconic number 1 that the entire audience is going to hate me not for choosing this as number 1. Because I feel like I'll be able to explain my number 1, so just wait till we get there. But for my number 2, okay, My number 2 is when Orochimaru fear hacks Sasuke in the Forest of Death. Now, hear me out. I already hear the comment section. Okay, you can stop your screaming. I know, Orochimaru's themes with the organ and the visuals of the bloodlust in Sasuke's vision, Sakura's reaction to this nightmarish scenario. I know it's all there, and that's exactly why it's at number 2. Practically at number 1. And I was flip-flopping in my head for days, honestly, at this point, of which one should go number 1. I feel like this one's more iconic, obviously, but I feel like number 1 just is gonna inch it out. So that's my number 2. So what'd you get?
So for number 2, I have Itachi's Massacre. Just the whole thing. From start to finish, it presents a very ominous tone. First off, it's at night with a full moon, and the last thing that happened at night with the full moon was another scary scene where Gaara transformed into Shukaku to kill Dosu. Second, it plays Gaara's theme when Sasuke finds dead bodies on the ground and runs home to check on his family. Third, never mind us, this is absolutely the most scared Sasuke gets in the entire series. The poor kid was absolutely terrified, and it only gets worse, because when Sasuke runs upstairs, he finds Itachi standing there next to their dead parents, his Sharingan activated, and an evil glare in his eyes. And as soon as Sasuke asks Itachi what happened, Itachi throws a shuriken at him, uses Tsukuyomi on him, shows him the massacre, tells him his ridiculous fake reason for killing the clan, punches Sasuke in the gut when Sasuke attacks him for killing the whole clan. Then Sasuke runs away, literally saying, "I'm scared." And we have one of my favorite and most tragic moments of the whole series as Sasuke cries and screams, "Please, I don't want to die!" And then Itachi appears before him and tells Sasuke to live solely for revenge until one day face Itachi in a death battle. Needless to say, this was not Sasuke's best day, and it left the poor kid lonely, traumatized, and led him down a dark path in most of the series. That's pretty scary.
Yeah, the Massacre is a good choice. I'll be honest, I don't think it has the most terrifying visuals of all these on this list, but it definitely has the largest build-up. If we're gonna like top 5 suspense list, this is going number 1 for sure, without a shadow of a doubt. Honestly, this feels like the cold open to a horror movie is how this is just framed and portrayed.
The main thing that holds this scene back in terms of scariness is the fact that this is a flashback. We already know that Sasuke walks out of this in one piece. Traumatized for sure, but in one piece. If this scene hypothetically took place in real time, or before we knew Sasuke as a character, like if this was Sasuke's introduction in chapter 3, kinda like the Nine Tails invasion thing for Naruto, this would probably go at the top of everyone's list, but obviously that's not how it played out. Number 1.5.
All right, well, if we're ready to move to the number 1 spot, I guess I could go first.
Well, actually, before you give your number 1 entry, I have a special number 1.5 scene to talk about, which is the scene when Gaara is stabbed by Sasuke's Chidori and he screams at the top of his lungs, and Shukaku's arm grabs Sasuke, he growls a little bit, and his eye stares at Sasuke through the little eye hole and freaks him and everyone else out when they sense the creepy, powerful chakra of Shukaku. And what I love about this scene is the progressive build up to this moment throughout the Chunin exams and during the fight as Gaara had a creepy conversation with himself thinking he's talking to his mom. The fear of the unknown as we don't know what the heck is going to happen next with Gaara. The build up to the scene in the forest when Gaara finally unleashes Shukaku, the creepy Gaara theme in the background, and most of all, Gaara's terrifying scream as he bleeds for the first time. It's just a very ominous scene.
Calmly. What number did you say this was again?
1.5.
What? No, that's not how top 5 list. What do you? There's no decimal. That doesn't make sense. What do you mean?
What's your issue?
Okay, we are not quoting Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. We're not getting away
I'm
from.
so happy you caught onto that.
Tell me to make a top 5 list when I wanted to make it to a top 10, and then you're like, oh, this one's a tie. That's so I got a 1.5. Okay.
It's a scary scene. What can I say?
Well, I'll give you that at least, even if the number makes no sense.
Number 1.
So my number 1 spot is gonna be Demon Gaara thrashing in pain, fighting Sasuke for the second time. So, you know, he's like,
Okay.
my praise!
You are my prey! My prey!
So I know, it's
Yes.
gonna be a controversial #1 spot.
No, I fully support it. Fully support.
Okay, so hear me out. I understand this doesn't have Orochimaru's organs playing or anything, but I think everything else they do is just objectively better. Because think about it. First of all, the music, they still have scary music, even if it's not Orochimaru's organs. That's okay. So, okay, Gaara's talking here, saying my prayer. Bro sounds like a demon. Like, they're doing the audio edits and everything. He doesn't even sound human. He literally sounds demonish, which works even better when you consider retrospect. Orochimaru just is Orochimaru. Gaara quite literally just does have a demonic entity within him. Not only does retroactively Orochimaru not actually want to kill Sasuke, but there's no other inner Orochimaru that wants to kill Sasuke either. Not only does Gaara want to kill Sasuke, but the inner Gaara, Shukaku, wants to kill Sasuke as well as Gaara and Shukaku are like a force of nature. They're slapping Tamari away effortlessly. He's willing to kill absolutely anyone within the vicinity, okay? And this has the most buildup of any scene ever in all of Naruto when we're talking about horror. Okay, with Orochimaru, he just pops out of nowhere. No buildup, minimal foreshadowing, with, if you want to argue, the Anko bit a little bit earlier. But like, this just pops out of nowhere. He's just terrifying Sasuke. But then you have Gaara, okay? Even in the episode titles, they're going dancing, leaf, squirming sand. Okay, this sand is squirming? Excuse me, squirming? From what? Why is the sand squirming? Because of Gaara and his mental, unstable, erratic, insane mental state as he's screaming mother, as he's thrashing around in pain, the literal demon within coming out. I thought this was definitely the most terrifying scene in Naruto.
That's my #1, but I'm curious, what's yours?
Or do you have another stupid fake number 1.4 entry?
Well, actually, funny you say that. Coming in at number 1.5.5, I actually have the Gaara scene you just mentioned. What I love most about this scene is the combination of Gaara's demonic personality with his choice of words, the progressive shift in the sound of his voice as it gets more grisly and monstrous, and the cracking of his face as he screams in absolute agony as he transforms into that monster. It's just frightening from every angle. We know he wants to kill Sasuke already, he's become even more bloodthirsty than ever before, he's transforming into his demon form like Naruto did versus Haku, and we saw just how monstrous Naruto became in that moment, and Gaara already felt like a nearly unstoppable force of nature. Now Sasuke has to fight it in an even more evolved state. That's frightening. And visually, Gaara looks very scary and demonic in this state, even more so than Naruto did versus Haku.
Bro actually had a 1.5.5. What is happening here?
I had to include him somehow. I couldn't just exclude Ukon and the Reaper Dance Seal.
Well, if that's the case, I have some honorable mentions too.
Sorry, we don't have time for that. I have to edit this by tomorrow. Number 1. Again. In my opinion, the #1 scariest scene in part 1 of Naruto is undoubtedly Orochimaru in the Forest of Death. You knew this one was coming. Specifically, it's the scene when he eats the scroll, then pulls down on his eyelid and makes Sasuke and Sakura see a vision of their own deaths, then he sneaks up behind Sasuke with a giant snake, then he comes out of that snake and gives a speech about predators and prey as he licks his lips with his giant tongue, then he springs onto the tree and does this bouncy thing as he wraps around the tree super fast as he goes to kill Sasuke before Naruto finally shows up. The Predator theme in the background is one of my favorite soundtracks and it absolutely fits the menacing tone of this scene. And Orochimaru is just doing this wacky scary shit while clearly being far too formidable of a foe for Sasuke to handle. And to make matters worse, we find out during the fight that someone stole the faces of the Grass Ninja, and Anko seems to know exactly who this person is, and she seems incredibly worried about this. So you know this is a big deal even before Orochimaru reveals his true identity. And when it comes to Sasuke and Sakura's reactions, this is one of their most terrified scenes. This very well might be the most terrified Sakura gets throughout the whole series, at least in terms of her own survival, and this is probably the second most terrified Sasuke gets after the Uchiha massacre. Sasuke's even imagining Orochimaru's scary face as the snake lunges towards him. That's how you know the kid's scared out of his mind. I feel pretty solid with this as my number 1 spot. Number 0. Before closing out this video, we have one more scene to talk about. No spooky Halloween video would be complete without talking about a ghost, and that's why we have a special number 0 entry, the Ghost of Sagi, also known as the Cursed Warrior. Naruto, Neji, and Tenten quite literally fight a ghost in this filler arc, and as you've probably noticed throughout several comedic scenes in Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, Naruto is terrified of ghosts, and he was pretty terrified when he found out that their first encounter with the Cursed Warrior was actually with a real ghost. The other times it was someone in disguise, but the first one was the real deal, as well as the one that appears in front of Moso in the prologue of the arc. It really comes down to the Reaper Death Seal and the Cursed Warrior for the most Halloween-themed thing on this list.
That's it? A number 0!
But let us know in the comments what you thought of our list and our reasoning, and let us know what your top 5 scariest moments in part 1 of Naruto are. Watch this video here for more of my content, subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.